Imagine for just a moment that your mind is a physical room.
Right, a tangible space.
Exactly. And every single time you complain or, harbor a bitter resentment or entertain a self-defeating doubt, someone walks into that room and just drops a handful of dirt on the floor.
That is quite the visual.
And over days or months and years, that dirt just accumulates. Yet most of us are walking around in this psychological landfill, looking at the mess of our lives, our careers, and our health, and wondering, why is my life such a disaster?
We immediately look outwards, don't we?
We do. We blame the economy, or we blame our upbringing. We blame bad luck.
Anything but ourselves.
Right. But today, we are looking at a manual from the year 1902 that makes a profoundly unsettling, yet I think liberating claim. It says your exact physical reality right now, your bank account, your stress levels, your relationships, is the precise mathematical sum of your own thoughts.
There is no external enemy.
None at all. There is only you, the master weaver of your destiny.
It is a remarkable proposition, truly. The book we are examining today is James Allen's absolute masterpiece, As a Man Thinketh.
A foundational text.
Precisely. But before we take another step, we really must clarify a fundamental piece of historical context. You will note the title uses the word man.
Right. We should address that right away.
Yes, because when James Allen penned this text in the late 19th and early 20th century, that specific word was the standard universal term. It was used interchangeably with mankind or humanity.
So it wasn't exclusionary?
Not at all. The immutable laws of the human mind that Allen describes apply equally and with the exact same unyielding force to everyone. There is absolutely no sexist nuance here whatsoever.
It applies across the board.
Exactly. This is a foundational text for the human soul, speaking directly to every single person listening to us today.
Welcome to Fact Horizon. This is where history meets mystery and facts define the future. We explore the profound truths of human existence, the wonders of the mind, and the secrets of the cosmos, all in one place. If you seek knowledge and wonder, you're in the right spot. Subscribe now and join our journey beyond the horizon.
And this specific journey requires us to look away from the horizon for a moment and turn our gaze entirely inward.
I like that. We have to look inside first.
We must. Because fundamentally, before we can even begin to comprehend, let alone change the external world, we have to examine the invisible machinery that produces it. We have to look at our own character.
Which is exactly why we are dedicating serious time to this. I want to be clear with everyone listening. This is part one of our comprehensive deep dive into As a Man Thinketh.
A very necessary deep dive.
Absolutely. We are going to deconstruct this philosophy systematically. So today, in this first part, our agenda is to cover the first 3 chapters. We start with chapter 1, Thought and Character.
The foundation.
Right. From there, we explore Chapter 2, Effective Thought on Circumstances. And we will conclude today with Chapter 3, Effects of Thoughts on Health and Body.
The progression Allen lays out is flawlessly logical. He takes us from the invisible genesis of a thought directly into the visible environment that surrounds us.
And then right into our physical biology.
Exactly, into the very biology of our own bodies. And as we move through this, I think the pace of our inquiry really must accelerate.
Because these aren't just passive suggestions.
No. What Allen is presenting are not gentle suggestions for a better life. These are dynamic, inescapable laws of nature.
Let's get straight into it then. We are moving fast now. Chapter 1, Thought and Character.
The core thesis.
Yes. Allen opens the entire book with a very famous aphorism, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he."
A beautiful line.
It is. But people hear that today and they think of it as just a nice motivational quote you might see on a poster.
Or on social media, yes.
Right. But Allen isn't speaking in poetic metaphors here. He is stating a literal mechanical fact of human existence.
Precisely. We have to completely discard the modern tendency to treat this as mere inspirational poetry. Allen is operating with the cold, hard precision of a physicist calculating gravity.
Wow, a physicist calculating gravity. That's a strong way to put it.
But it is accurate. When he states that a person is literally what they think, he means that your character, the absolute core essence of your identity, is nothing more and nothing less than the complete sum of all your thoughts.
So it's like a ledger.
Exactly like a ledger. There is no hidden mystical element to your personality that sits apart from what you think about on a Tuesday afternoon. Your character is just the accumulated balance of your daily cognitive habits.
He uses this vivid botanical analogy to explain this, which I find fascinating.
Botany of the mind.
Yes, the botany of the mind. He says that just as a physical plant springs from a seed and, physically could not exist without that seed being planted in the dirt, every single act of a human being springs from the hidden seeds of thought.
It is an unavoidable cause and effect.
Right. He calls our actions the blossoms of thought, and the joy or the suffering that follows those actions, those are the fruits.
The sweet and the bitter fruitage of our own husbandry, as he phrases it.
It's a brilliant way to visualize it.
It truly is. What makes this so striking, and frankly so demanding, is the absolute sweep of his claim. He writes that this law applies equally to those acts that we call spontaneous and unpremeditated, just as much as it applies to the acts we sit down and deliberately plan out.
Okay, hold on. Stop right there, because I really have to challenge this.
Please do.
I think a lot of people listening will push back on that specific point. Let's say I'm walking down the street, perfectly calm, and someone bumps into me hard, spilling my coffee.
A classic scenario.
Right. If I instantly lash out and shout at them, a completely spontaneous, unpremeditated reaction, Alan is actually saying that this sudden burst of anger is a blossom from a hidden seed of thought.
That is exactly what he is saying.
But does this mean no one is inherently born with a short temper or a good nature?
Yeah.
Are we just empty armories filling up with weapons? Because he uses that exact phrase, doesn't he? In the armory of thought, he forges the weapons by which he destroys himself.
It is a profound challenge you are raising. But yes, Alan's text absolutely posits a strict, undeviating law of cause and effect in that hidden realm.
He doesn't leave any wiggle room.
None at all. He is uncompromising on this. Man is, in his words, made or unmade by himself. It is a process of growth by law, not an accidental creation.
So the spilled coffee reaction.
If you react to that spilled coffee with a spontaneous burst of rage, Alan argues that the rage was not created in that split second. The seed of that anger was already there in your mental soil.
So the event didn't create the anger. The event just forced the plant to bloom.
Exactly. You had been cultivating that seed in secret.
Without even realizing it, maybe?
Perhaps for years. You have been harboring defensive, hostile, or easily frustrated thoughts in the privacy of your own mind. You might not have acted on them, but you were watering them.
Wow. So the sudden shock of the spilled coffee merely created the weather conditions for that plant to blossom instantly.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The armory is neutral, yes. But the blacksmith inside your mind is always working. You are either forging the weapons of your own destruction, or you are fashioning the tools to build heavenly mansions of joy and strength.
That reframes everything. I mean, if you snap at your spouse or if you shrink away from a challenge at work in sudden fear, you can't just say, oh, I don't know where that came from. That's not me.
No, you cannot. Alan is saying, no, that is exactly you. That is the exact mathematical sum of what you have been secretly thinking about for the last 6 months.
It forces a terrifying level of self-honesty, honestly.
It does. Because if you habitually think noble, elevated thoughts, you forge, over time, a divine character. It is an inescapable consequence of the law.
And the reverse must be true.
Unfortunately, yes. Conversely, if you continually harbor base, groveling, selfish thoughts, you construct a bestial character. The text makes it categorically clear between the divine and the beastly are all the varying grades of human character, and you, the individual, are their absolute maker and master.
So we hold the key to every single situation.
We do. You contain within yourself the regenerative agency to mold your own destiny.
It's incredibly empowering, but it is a fiercely heavy burden of responsibility.
A massive burden.
It means every trivial, everyday thought is a diagnostic tool. But this brings us to a massive question.
What is that?
Well, if our thoughts are strictly dictating our inner character, how does that stay contained? Or rather, how does it not stay contained? How does this invisible inner armory actually break out and affect the physical, tangible world we live in?
The translation from inner to outer.
Exactly. How do my private thoughts become my public reality?
And that very question is the exact threshold we cross to enter chapter 2. Effective thought on circumstances.
Perfect transition.
Yes. Here, Alan expands his botanical metaphor into what is undeniably the most famous and enduring imagery of the entire book. He declares that the human mind may be likened to a garden.
A garden that you can either intelligently cultivate or that you can simply ignore and allow to run wild.
Precisely. But here is the terrifying truth about soil. Whether it is physical food or the neural pathways of your brain, it must and it will bring forth something.
The soil doesn't just sit empty.
Never. The soil does not care what you plant. It has no moral preference. If you put no useful, purposeful seeds into your mind, the text states that an abundance of useless weed seeds will inevitably fall therein. They will continue to produce their kind.
Because the human mind cannot exist as a vacuum.
Exactly. If you are not actively, consciously weeding out impure, negative thoughts and deliberately cultivating the flowers of pure, useful thoughts, the weeds will automatically overtake the soil.
Let's break down how this actually works, because the danger here is that this sounds like a very old version of toxic positivity, right?
Yes, the just think good thoughts movement.
Right, like just think good thoughts and $1 million will magically appear. But Alan doesn't say that at all.
Not in the slightest.
He describes a highly specific, mechanical, almost chemical sequence of reality building. He calls it a process of crystallization. Walk me through that mechanism. If I sit on my couch and think angry thoughts, how does that physically materialize into a bad circumstance? What is the actual bridge?
This is perhaps the most crucial mechanism in the entire text. Alan argues that thought cannot be kept secret.
Even if we try.
Especially if we try.
Yeah.
We delude ourselves into believing we can harbor dark, jealous, or lazy thoughts and hide them behind a polite smile. Alan says this is biologically and physically impossible.
So how does it leak out?
Thoughts, he explains, rapidly crystallize into habits, and those habits then solidify into circumstances. It is a relentless three-step pipeline: thought, habit, circumstance.
Okay, so the habit is the physical bridge.
Exactly. The thought is the invisible blueprint. The habit is the physical construction, and the circumstance is the finished building.
That makes so much sense.
Let us look at the specific, unrelenting pairings Alan provides to illustrate this law. He writes that bestial and impure thoughts crystallize into habits of drunkenness and sensuality.
And what do those physical habits solidify into?
Circumstances of destitution and disease.
Wow. And he gives other examples too. He says lazy thoughts crystallize into weak habits of uncleanliness and dishonesty.
Yes.
You don't just think lazy thoughts. You start cutting corners at work. You hit snooze 3 times. You leave the house in a total mess. You lie to cover up your delayed projects.
And those physical habits solidify into what? Circumstances of foulness and beggary. You lose your job. You lose your relationships. It is a continuous downward gravitational pull, entirely initiated by the initial thought.
But the exact same mechanism governs the upward trajectory, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Pure thoughts crystallize into habits of temperance and self-control. Energetic thoughts crystallize into habits of industry and focus.
And those habits solidify into circumstances of pleasantness, repose, and peace.
Yes. It is not magic. It is mathematical. He states unequivocally that a man cannot directly choose his circumstances. You cannot just snap your fingers and be wealthy or at peace, but you can choose your thoughts.
And therefore, indirectly, yet with absolute certainty, you shape your circumstances.
Precisely.
Okay, I have to step in here, because this is the exact point where a modern listener might just throw their hands up and reject the entire book.
The issue of systemic suffering, I imagine.
Yes, exactly. What about someone facing absolute grinding poverty? What about a person who gets hit by a drunk driver and ends up paralyzed? Or, someone who finds themselves sitting in a jail cell for a crime they felt forced to commit just to survive?
Those are profound objections.
Is Alan truly saying there is no such thing as the tyranny of fate? Is it not deeply cruel to suggest that all suffering is self-authored? I mean, I really need to understand what he actually means when he makes that stunning declaration: circumstance does not make the man, it reveals him to himself.
It is a heavy, highly controversial question, and you are entirely right to ask it. But we must understand that Alan does not flinch.
He doesn't back down.
Not for a moment. We must look closely at the framework he operates within. He presents a view of the universe that is fundamentally, inherently just. He writes that a man does not come to the almshouse or the jail by the tyranny of fate, but by the pathway of groveling thoughts and base desires.
But how does he justify that? That sounds so harsh.
He argues that even the pure-minded man does not suddenly fall into crime due to external stress or sudden poverty. The criminal thought, the compromise of integrity, had been secretly fostered in the heart long before the external pressure arrived. The hour of opportunity, or the hour of crisis, merely revealed its gathered power. The circumstance didn't create the thief. The circumstance just provided the stage for the thief to reveal himself.
So he is saying we do not attract what we want in life. We attract what we are.
That is the absolute core of his argument. Men are desperately anxious to improve their circumstances, he notes, but they are entirely unwilling to improve themselves, therefore they remain bound.
It's a bitter pill to swallow.
It is. He asks a very pointed question. What is the meaning of fighting against circumstances? It means you are revolting against the outer effect while you are secretly nourishing and preserving the cause of it within your own heart.
You know, it's like standing in front of a projector screen, seeing a monster on the wall, and trying to furiously wipe the screen clean, without realizing you are the one holding the slide in front of the projector lens.
That is a magnificent analogy.
You have to turn off the projector, you have to change the slide.
Exactly. And regarding the reality of suffering, Alan is remarkably stoic. He posits that the sole and supreme use of suffering is to purify. It acts as a fire to burn out all that is useless and impure.
So suffering has a distinct purpose.
Yes. Suffering, according to the text, is always the effect of wrong sought in some direction. It is an indicator, a warning light on the dashboard, if you will, that the individual is out of harmony with the law of their being.
Wait, does he say that a perfectly pure person wouldn't suffer?
He does. A perfectly pure and enlightened being, he states, could not suffer, just as there is no object in burning gold after the dross has been removed.
That is fascinating. He also touches on extreme wealth, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
He mentions indigence, extreme poverty, and indulgence, gluttonous wealth. He calls both of these unnatural extremes of wretchedness.
Which is quite a radical thought for his time.
Very radical. He says a man is only rightly conditioned when he is happy, healthy, and prosperous, as a result of harmonious adjustment to his inner thoughts.
Because the law of the universe, again, is an agricultural reality.
All right.
Nothing can come from corn but corn, and nothing from nettles but nettles.
Right.
If you plant nettles in your mind, thoughts of envy, greed, fear, resentment, you cannot pray for corn and expect it to grow. The universe does not give good for evil, or evil for good. It simply gives you what you plant.
So it's about ceasing to fight the inevitable.
Yes. When a man ceases to whine and revile and begins to adapt his mind to this hidden justice, he stops kicking against circumstances. He starts using them as aids for his own rapid progress. He uses the circumstance to discover what hidden seeds he planted.
This philosophy demands complete, total accountability.
Absolute accountability.
But let's bring this even closer to home. We've discussed our inner character, and we've discussed our external surroundings, our finances, our careers. But what about the most intimate circumstance we possess?
Our own bodies.
Exactly. The most immediate environment any of us live in is our own physical body. This brings us perfectly into Chapter 3, Effects of Thoughts on Health and Body.
A very natural progression.
If all thoughts dictate the garden of our outer world, Alan argues they must hold absolute dominion over the physical cells of our body.
Indeed. And Alan's premise here is blunt, immediate, and completely counter to how most of us view biology today.
How so?
He states that the body is the servant of the mind. It is not an independent machine that just breaks down randomly. He describes the body as a delicate and plastic instrument that obeys the operations of the mind with automatic precision.
Whether those operations are deliberately chosen or just carelessly allowed to run wild.
Exactly. He draws a definitive line between disease and vigor. He states that sickly thoughts will inevitably express themselves through a sickly body.
He talks about fear specifically, right?
Yes. He points out that thoughts of fear have been known to kill a man as speedily as a bullet. And even if they do not kill instantly, chronic anxiety continually demoralizes the whole body. It shatters the nervous system and lays the gates wide open to the entrance of disease.
This actually aligns perfectly with what modern science now tells us about cortisol, adrenaline, and chronic stress.
It is remarkably prescient.
We know now that living in a state of perpetual fear or anger physically suppresses the immune system. Alan was writing this in 1902 without modern neurobiology, but he saw the precise mechanism.
He observed the effects clearly. He writes that the people who live in constant fear of disease are the very people who contract it.
It is the biological manifestation of the weeds we discussed earlier.
Precisely. On the contrary, strong, pure, happy thoughts build up the body in vigor and grace. The thought is the fount, the source of the spring. If you make the fountain pure, the waters of the body will naturally run clear and pure.
I want to highlight a highly specific and honestly very controversial claim he makes in this chapter because it aggressively challenges our modern sensibilities about health.
The quote regarding diet.
Yes. Alan writes, "Change of diet will not help a man who will not change his thoughts."
It is a stark statement.
When I read that, I immediately think of a car engine. It's like putting premium high-octane fuel into an engine block that is completely rusted out and broken. Is Alan truly saying that physical interventions like eating a clean diet or taking supplements are entirely useless if a person lacks mental purity?
Based strictly on his text, yes. He absolutely validates that interpretation. He writes that out of a clean heart comes a clean life and a clean body.
So the mind dictates the diet, not the other way around.
Exactly. When a man makes his thoughts purer, he automatically no longer desires impure food. So the mental shift must precede the physical habit. You cannot force a clean diet onto a chaotic, anxious mind. The mind will eventually sabotage the diet because the habit must align with the thought.
He even makes that rather sharp observation about hygiene, doesn't he?
Ah, yes. The passage about the saint.
He says the so-called saint who does not wash his body is not a true saint. Clean thoughts demand clean habits, extending all the way to physical cleanliness.
Yes. And he brings in striking visual evidence for this, pointing directly to the human face. He talks about knowing a woman of 96 years of age who possessed the bright, innocent face of a young girl.
And he contrasts her with someone else.
He does. In stark contrast, he describes a man well under middle age, whose face is drawn into inharmonious contours by passion, discontent, and greed.
He famously states, "A sour face does not come by chance. It is made by sour thoughts." I just love that line.
It leaves quite an impression.
Wrinkles, according to Allen, are not just the inevitable passage of time. They are physically carved into our skin by folly, by passion, by pride.
Or, alternatively, age can be calm and softly mellowed like a setting sun for those who have lived righteously and managed their mental garden.
He declares cheerful thought to be the ultimate physician.
He writes that there is no comforter that can compare with goodwill for dispersing the shadows of grief and sorrow. To live continually in thoughts of ill will, cynicism, suspicion, or envy is, as he puts it, to be confined in a self-made prison hole.
That is a terrifying thought. You are literally locking yourself in the jail of your own body, suffering the physical ailments of your own mental bitterness.
It is a profoundly sobering realization. Every ache, every contour of the face, every physical limitation is, in Allen's framework, a physical shadow cast by a mental object.
So to perfect your body, you must first guard your mind. To renew your physical energy, you must beautify your mental landscape.
It all circles back to the undeniable sovereignty of the individual. You are not a victim of your biology, just as you are not a victim of your circumstances.
Well, as we draw this initial deep dive to a close, let us slow down. Let us truly observe the gravity of what we've discussed today.
Yes, the implications are vast.
We have traversed the first 3 chapters of this monumental, uncompromising work. If we are to synthesize the primary takeaway of part 1, it is this: you listening to us right now, in your car, at your desk, or in your home. You are the absolute master gardener of your own soul.
There is no external force to blame for the architecture of your life.
And there is no external savior coming to magically rearrange it. Your thoughts build your character, stitch by invisible stitch. Your character then dictates your physical circumstances, your wealth, your peace, your freedom, with the precision of a mathematical equation.
And your mind physically, biologically shapes the vessel of your own body.
The accountability is absolute. There is no denying that.
But within that absolute accountability lies absolute freedom. It is a profound realization that you are holding the pen that writes the story of your life.
Not just in broad, sweeping strokes.
No, in the microscopic, moment-to-moment decisions of what you simply allow yourself to think.
And so, we leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over until we meet again. We have established that every single thought is a seed.
A seed that will inevitably, undeniably blossom
into a physical action and bear the fruit of circumstance in your physical reality. So I ask you, what kind of harvest are you actively planting in your mind today, right at this very second? Are you planting corn or are you planting nettles?
A question that demands an honest answer from us all.
In the upcoming part 2, we will explore the final 4 chapters of this masterpiece: thought and purpose, the thought factor in achievement, visions and ideals, and serenity. Stay tuned for the ultimate conclusion. I want you to consider, right in this exact fraction of a second, the specific thoughts that are currently occupying your mind. Just observe them.
Right, just watch them.
Exactly. Do not judge them, and do not attempt to alter them yet. Merely watch them as they pass through the corridors of your consciousness.
It is a profound exercise, I must say.
It is. Are you steering a deliberate, meticulously chosen course through the turbulent waters of your life? Or, are you simply drifting?
Drifting, yes.
Are you allowing the chaotic currents of circumstance, the opinions of others, and the daily frictions of the world to push you wherever they please?
It is perhaps the most terrifying question a human being can ask themselves, isn't it? Because the answer dictates the entirety of their reality.
It really does.
In the first part of our deep dive into James Allen's monumental work, as a Man Thinketh, we did not just introduce a theory. We established a foundational, unbreakable law of human existence.
Right, the law of the mind.
Exactly so. We uncovered the reality that your mind is, without exception, a garden.
And as we established, that garden operates on a ruthless, infallible logic. It can be intelligently, painstakingly cultivated by a master gardener, or, well, it can be completely neglected.
Allowed to run wild with weeds, basically.
Exactly. Suffocating weeds of anxiety, fear, and malice. But the absolute truth, the inescapable mechanism of this law, is that whether cultivated or neglected, it must bring forth a harvest.
It will bring forth a harvest. There is no escaping it.
Right. Our outer circumstances are never random accidents. They are the exact, unerring physical reflections of our inner thought seeds.
The profound realization we arrived at is that the environment does not make the man. It merely reveals him to himself.
Revealing the hidden seeds.
Precisely. Every joy you experience, every crushing defeat you endure, is the direct, unmitigated fruitage of your own mental husbandry.
So you, and you alone, are the master weaver of your destiny.
Yes. There are no victims in Allen's universe, only architects.
And it is with the immense, staggering weight of that responsibility firmly in our grasp that we must cross the threshold today.
The architecture of the mind awaits us.
But before we embark on the final, most demanding leg of this journey, we must deliver our mandate. Welcome to Fact Horizon. This is where history meets mystery and facts define the future. We explore the profound truths of human existence, the wonders of the mind, and the secrets of the cosmos, all in one place. If you seek knowledge and wonder, you're in the right spot. Subscribe now and join our journey beyond the horizon.
It is a profound privilege to continue this intellectual excavation with you.
This is part 2, and the grand conclusion of our deep dive into As a Man Thinketh.
The final chapters.
Yes, we have a highly rigorous, intensely practical journey before us today. We are going to trace the ultimate trajectory of human potential.
I am ready.
We will begin by dissecting the absolute necessity of uniting thought with purpose, which is Chapter 4, Thought and Purpose.
A crucial chapter.
From there, we will transition into Chapter 5, The Thought Factor in Achievement, discussing the uncompromising reality of human effort.
Right, the physical world application.
Then, in Chapter 6, Visions and Ideals, we will explore the invisible mechanics of how dreamers literally construct the world.
That is perhaps my favorite section, I must say.
It is brilliant. And finally, Chapter 7, Serenity, where we ascend to the absolute pinnacle of human mental evolution.
We are moving essentially from the invisible root to the visible fruit. The groundwork of understanding the mental garden is complete.
It is.
Now, we must understand the precise science of the harvest.
And that means the energy of our discussion must fundamentally shift right now.
The slow, deliberate cultivation is over.
Exactly. We understand the soil, but the question that burns before us is no longer just how we cultivate the garden. The imperative is action.
Fast-paced, dynamic action.
Yes. How do we take this raw, untamed mental energy and forge it into an unstoppable, world-altering force? How do we stop thinking about the harvest and actually reap tangible, monumental life achievements?
It is time to execute.
Let us tear directly into Chapter 4. James Allen does not offer comforting platitudes here. He states, with absolute finality, that until thought is linked with purpose, there is zero intelligent accomplishment in human life.
Zero. He is aggressively uncompromising on this front.
He really is.
He uses an incredibly vivid and haunting metaphor, actually. He describes the vast, overwhelming majority of humanity as allowing the bark of thought, the vessel of their mind, to simply drift upon the dark, churning ocean of life.
Just drifting aimlessly.
Right. Now, conventional wisdom might suggest that drifting is just a passive state. We often think of someone lacking direction as harmless. Perhaps just taking their time to find their way.
Finding themselves, as they say.
Exactly so. But Allen rejects that completely. He categorizes aimlessness not as a mistake, not as a temporary phase, but as a vice.
I must stop you right there because that word is explosive. Vice.
It is a heavy word.
We reserve that word for actively destructive, malicious behaviors. We use it for corruption, for addiction, for cruelty. To classify the mere act of wandering through life without a central goal as a vice, that is a radical redefinition of morality. Why does he use such a condemning term?
Because within his framework, drifting is an act of profound self-destruction. It is a vice because it actively decays the mental faculties.
Wow, actively decays.
Yes, when you do not deliberately aim your thoughts, you are not merely pausing. You are opening the gates of your mind to invading forces.
So nature abhors a vacuum.
Precisely. He explained that a person without a central purpose automatically falls prey to a host of mental parasites. They become consumed by petty worries, by irrational paralyzing fears, by the trivial frictions of daily troubles, and most corrosively, by self-pity.
Self-pity, and all of those, the worry, the fear, the self-pity, he diagnoses these not as natural emotional reactions, but as explicit, fatal indicators of weakness.
And weakness, in the universe James Allen describes, is a terminal condition.
He lays out a strict, inescapable logical progression, doesn't he? Weakness leads to failure, unhappiness, and loss just as surely and just as devastatingly as deliberately planned sins do.
Exactly. It is simply taking a passive route to the exact same destination of total ruin.
It's terrifying when you frame it like that.
That is the mechanism of the universe he presents. It is a power-evolving universe. Nature, reality, the cosmos, whatever you wish to call it, despises weakness. If you are weak, the immense grinding machinery of life will simply crush you.
So you have to steer.
Therefore, the absolute first step toward salvation, toward taking control of the helm, is the deliberate forging of a central purpose.
The text instructs you to conceive of a legitimate purpose in your heart and to set out with unyielding resolve to accomplish it.
Yes, and he emphasizes that this purpose must become the absolute gravitational center of your mind.
Now, he is quite flexible on what that purpose actually is.
Very flexible, yes.
Yeah.
He mentions it could be a highly spiritual ideal or it could be a deeply worldly material object.
Like building a massive business.
Exactly. It depends entirely on your nature at that particular time in your evolution. But the object itself matters less than the exclusivity of your focus.
So the discipline is what matters.
You must steadily, relentlessly channel all of your thought forces upon that single centralizing point. It is about the absolute monopolization of your mental energy.
Monopolization, I like that.
He dictates that you must make this chosen purpose your supreme overriding duty. You must completely and entirely devote yourself to its attainment.
And here is where the agonizing discipline is required, because you cannot allow your thoughts to wander away into ephemeral fancies.
You absolutely cannot.
You cannot indulge in vague longings or idle, passive imaginings. This rigorous, almost militant channeling of mental energy is what he calls the royal road to self-control and true concentrated power.
But let us inject a dose of hard reality into this. Human beings fail.
We fail a lot.
Right. A listener right now might be thinking, I have set a purpose before. I focused on it, and I failed catastrophically.
So what does Alan say to that person?
He anticipates this exact human frailty. And his insight here is a brilliant psychological masterstroke. He states that even if you fail again and again and again to accomplish your chosen purpose—
which is brutal, by the way.
It is brutal. But he says you must fail until your inherent weakness is finally burned away. The actual strength of character you have gained in the attempt is the true measure of your success.
That is such a profound pivot.
Right. The physical goal, the outward manifestation is entirely secondary. The internal strengthening of the will is the primary objective.
So every failure is simply a rigorous workout for the soul.
Exactly so. That newly gained character, forged in the furnace of defeat, then becomes a completely new, elevated starting point for future power and future triumph.
You are never starting from zero again. You are starting from experience.
Precisely. However, we must address the listener who feels completely adrift. There are individuals who are in a mental state where grasping a grand overarching life purpose feels impossible.
They are too submerged in chaos, you know. Does Alan just abandon them?
Absolutely not. He is a profoundly practical philosopher. For those souls who cannot yet bear the weight of a massive purpose, he provides a highly specific, immediately actionable fallback mechanism.
Okay, what is it?
He says, if you are not prepared for a great purpose, you must fix your thoughts utterly and flawlessly upon the performance of your current duty.
Current duty, no matter how small.
No matter how profoundly insignificant or menial that task may appear.
This is a spectacular point. If your only duty today is sweeping a floor or organizing a spreadsheet or folding garments, you do not do it with resentment.
No, you do it flawlessly.
You elevate the sweeping of the floor to an art form.
Exactly. And why? Because, as the text argues, it is only in this meticulous microscopic attention to the immediate duty that your scattered, fractured thoughts can be gathered and focused.
It is the training ground. It builds the scaffolding of resolution and energy.
And once you develop that baseline of intense, laser-like focus, you can apply it to literally anything.
But as soon as you begin this process, as soon as you step onto the path of purpose or immaculate duty, you will instantly meet the two great assassins of human potential.
Oh, the twin assassins.
Yes. Allen identifies these specific disintegrating elements that will aggressively attempt to break up the straight line of your effort. They will try to render your path crooked, ineffectual, and ultimately useless.
Those twin assassins being doubt and fear.
He is utterly merciless regarding doubt and fear. He does not view them as natural survival mechanisms. He views them as absolute poison.
Absolute poison. He says thoughts of doubt and fear can never accomplish anything.
They never have, and they never will. They inevitably lead to failure.
The very fraction of a second that doubt and fear are allowed to creep into the mind, purpose, energy, and the power to actually execute immediately cease.
He provides what is essentially a mathematical formula for reality. Thought plus fearless purpose equals creative force.
Let us dissect the mechanics of how fear actually operates. Why does it destroy purpose?
What is it?
Because fear and doubt sever the neurological and spiritual link between the internal thought and the external action.
It creates a gap.
Right. If your purpose requires you to step forward, doubt introduces the physical hesitation. It makes the hands shake, it fractures the concentration, it causes you to misread the environment.
It does not just make you feel bad, it actively dismantles your competence in real time.
Exactly.
I look at it like this. Think of an analogy. If you are drifting, you are a wooden raft without a rudder, being violently tossed by every wave, completely at the mercy of the storm. You have no propulsion.
Just drifting.
But when you link thought with fearless purpose, you become a guided missile. You are locked onto a specific target, and the sheer violent force of your propulsion cuts right through the wind, the rain, and the atmospheric pressure.
That is a brilliant analogy. A guided missile locked on a target.
But here is the critical question, relying strictly on the text. How do we actually slay these enemies? How do we practically eradicate doubt and fear when they are so deeply woven into the human experience?
Allen provides a precise psychological mechanism for this conquest. He states that the will to do springs directly from the knowledge that we can do.
Knowledge that we can do.
Right. Doubt and fear are fundamentally the great enemies of knowledge. They thrive in the shadows of ignorance about your own capabilities.
So ignorance is what breeds the fear.
Exactly. To slay them, you must understand a fundamental law. Strength can only be developed by effort and practice.
The weakest soul must look in the mirror, recognize its weakness without flinching, believe in the truth that strength can be developed, and at once begin to exert itself.
So it is the accumulation of microscopic victories.
You conquer fear by adding effort to effort, patience to patience, strength to strength.
He says he who has conquered doubt and fear has conquered failure.
His purposes are seasonably planted, and they do not fall prematurely to the ground. You slay fear by the relentless cumulative application of effort, which physically proves to your own mind that you are capable.
You build a resume of competence that fear simply cannot argue with.
I love that. A resume of competence, which logically propels us into the next phase of this philosophy, Chapter 5.
The thought factor in achievement.
We have established the engine of purpose. Now we must confront the brutal realities of the physical world.
We are transitioning from the internal forging of the will to the external mechanics of realizing success.
And here, Allen introduces his most challenging doctrine, the doctrine of absolute, unmitigated individual responsibility.
It is a staggering stance, I must say. He declares unequivocally that all that a person achieves and every single thing they fail to achieve is the direct, unadulterated result of their own thoughts. Everything. This is perhaps the hardest pill for the modern mind to swallow.
Oh, absolutely. We live in an era of complex sociology. We are trained to look at systemic factors, environments, and historical disadvantages.
Right, but Allen strips all of that away. He argues that we exist in a justly ordered universe.
Justly ordered.
Yes. And in such a universe where a loss of equilibrium would mean total cosmic destruction, individual responsibility cannot be a partial equation. It must be absolute.
So there is no percentage. You are 100% responsible.
Exactly so. Therefore, a person's weakness and their strength, their purity, their impurity, are entirely their own creation and absolutely no one else's.
I have to pause and challenge the sheer weight of this because Allen is leaving zero room for scapegoating.
None whatsoever.
He is saying your condition is entirely your own. Your deepest sufferings and your highest moments of happiness are evolved exclusively from within.
As you think, so you are. As you continue to think, so you remain.
He goes so far as to state that a strong person cannot even help a weaker person unless that weaker person is explicitly, desperately willing to be helped.
And even then, the weak person must become strong of themselves.
The strong cannot give them strength.
No, the weak must develop it by their own internal effort.
That is heavy. And this doctrine of absolute responsibility reaches its most provocative, deeply challenging peak when Allen discusses the dynamic between the oppressor and the slave.
This is a highly controversial passage, but we must examine the mechanism exactly as the text presents it.
Yes, let's look at the text.
He notes that the common, superficial judgment of society dictates two reactions. People either say, many men are slaves because one is an oppressor, let us hate the oppressor.
Right, blame the tyrant.
Or conversely, they say, one man is an oppressor because many are slaves, let us despise the slaves.
Blame the weak. But Allen rejects both of those societal judgments outright, doesn't he? He refuses to take either side of that conventional paradigm.
Completely. He asserts a startling, almost transcendent perspective. He claims the truth is that the oppressor and the slaves are, in fact, cooperators in ignorance.
Cooperators in ignorance.
While they appear on the surface to be afflicting each other, one through tyranny, the other through submission, they are, in ultimate reality, afflicting themselves.
We need to unpack how he justifies that. How are they afflicting themselves? It sounds crazy on the surface.
Well, the text states that a perfect knowledge perceives the exact, unerring action of universal law operating in both individuals.
Okay, perfect knowledge.
Yes, it sees the law operating in the weakness and relinquishing of agency by the oppressed, and it sees the exact same law operating in the misapplied, chaotic power of the oppressor.
Both are out of alignment. Furthermore, he introduces the concept of perfect love.
Yes, perfect love.
This perspective sees the profound suffering that both states entail, the suffering of being subjugated and the deep spiritual rot of being a tyrant, and it condemns neither.
A perfect compassion embraces both the oppressor and the oppressed because both are trapped in a prison of incorrect thought.
According to Allen, the individual who has truly conquered their own weakness and who has pushed away all selfish, tyrannical thoughts belongs to neither category.
That individual who rules their own mind is the only one who is genuinely free.
It is a radical, total detachment from worldly narratives of victimhood and tyranny. It shifts the entire theater of war to the sovereign kingdom of the individual mind.
And to elevate that mind out of those traps, Allen introduces the inescapable law of sacrifice.
The law of sacrifice. He dictates as a law of nature that there can be absolutely no progress nor any achievement of any kind without sacrifice.
We must be extraordinarily precise about what he means by sacrifice here.
Yeah.
He is not talking about romanticized martyrdom.
No.
He is not talking about giving away all your money and living in a cave. He explicitly states that before a person can achieve anything, even in basic worldly material success, they must lift their thoughts above slavish animal indulgence.
He states brutally that a person whose very first thought is bestial indulgence can neither think clearly nor plan methodically.
Let us examine the mechanics of that. What does he mean by animal indulgence?
Right. What is it?
He means the reactionary, impulsive desire for immediate gratification, gluttony, lethargy, the inability to delay reward, the surrender to momentary passion.
So chaotic desires.
Exactly. Such a person cannot find or develop their latent resources. Why? Because their mental energy is constantly being siphoned off to feed these immediate chaotic impulses.
Because they have not begun to manfully control their internal thoughts, they are simply not in a cognitive position to control external affairs.
Or to adopt serious responsibilities. A chaotic mind cannot manage a complex business.
Therefore, worldly success is measured precisely, almost mathematically, by the exact degree to which a person sacrifices those confused animal thoughts.
You must rigorously fix your mind on the development of your plans, the strengthening of your resolve, and the building of your self-reliance.
You trade immediate gratification for long-term power.
And when we ascend from mere worldly success to intellectual and spiritual achievements, the requirement for sacrifice multiplies exponentially.
It scales up.
Yes. Intellectual achievements, he notes, are the direct result of thought completely consecrated to the search for knowledge. They're the natural outgrowth of long, arduous, unseen effort and of pure, unselfish thoughts.
They do not, and cannot, spring from shallow vanity or the mere ambition for fame. Spiritual achievements are the ultimate consummation of holy aspirations.
But he provides a terrifying warning here, a massive caveat.
I remember this.
He states that achievement is the crown of effort, the diadem of thought. You ascend the mountain by the aid of self-control, resolution, purity, and well-directed thought.
But And this is vital. Victories attained by right thought can be maintained only by supreme, unblinking watchfulness.
Unblinking watchfulness,
Yeah.
exactly. Countless individuals fight their way to the top, achieve success, and then they give way.
They get comfortable.
They assume the battle's over, they allow arrogant, selfish, or corrupt thoughts to slowly take possession of them, and they rapidly, violently fall back into failure and wretchedness.
The universe does not let you keep what you no longer have the character to hold.
I anticipate a strong objection here, though. Let us address the reality of the world we see around us.
Right, because listeners are thinking about corrupt billionaires right now.
Exactly. Allen states that the universe does not favor the greedy, the dishonest, or the vicious, even though on the mere surface it sometimes may appear to do so.
He claims the universe strictly helps the honest, the magnanimous, and the virtuous.
So a listener could point to corrupt billionaires, ruthless dictators, and dishonest operators who seem to possess immense wealth and power.
They seem to be winning.
Exactly. How does Allen defend this worldview where absolute justice supposedly always prevails?
It is the ultimate question of the text, and his defense rests entirely on his definition of what constitutes true achievement and the extended timeline of universal justice.
The timeline is key.
Yes. To Allen, ill-gotten wealth or tyrannical power is not an achievement at all. It's a highly unstable, temporary physical circumstance built on a foundation of corrupt, chaotic thoughts.
And because the foundation is rotten, the structure must eventually collapse. He views the universe through a lens of profound, undeviating law over the long term.
He states the equation simply. He who would accomplish little needs sacrifice little. He who would achieve much must sacrifice much.
He who would attain highly must sacrifice greatly. True, enduring achievement, what he calls the diadem of thought, requires a fundamental alignment with the universe's ultimate moral and structural order.
So the temporary appearance of a wicked person prospering is an optical illusion to those who only see the surface?
Exactly so. What the onlookers do not see is the hidden, crushing weight of that person's internal mental disorder. Their paranoia, their spiritual rot, which will, by the absolute law of cause and effect, eventually manifest outwardly in ruin.
That critical distinction between temporary, unstable material gain and enduring, true achievement is the bridge to his next profound concept, Chapter 6.
Visions and ideals.
It leads us directly into the power of internal architecture. This section of the text is incredibly poetic, yet underneath the poetry it is profoundly, ruthlessly mechanical in its application.
Allen opens with a sweeping declaration. The dreamers are the saviors of the world.
He argues a fascinating point. He says that just as the visible physical world is sustained by invisible forces like gravity, magnetism, atomic bonds, humanity itself is actually nourished and kept alive by the beautiful visions of its solitary dreamers.
Through all its brutal trials, its sins, and its sordid mundane vocations, humanity relies on the dreamers.
He provides historical anchors for this claim. He lists Columbus, who cherished a seemingly impossible vision of another world, endured mutiny and despair, and ultimately discovered it.
He lists Copernicus, who fostered the heretical vision of a multiplicity of worlds, challenging the entire dogma of his era and revealed the true cosmos.
And he points to Buddha, who beheld the vision of a spiritual world of perfect peace, sacrificed a kingdom to find it, and entered into it.
He expands this pantheon to include the composers who hear unheard melodies, the sculptors who see forms in raw marble, the painters, the poets, and the prophets.
He elevates them to the title of the makers of the afterworld, the architects of heaven on earth.
Without them, he claims, laboring humanity would simply grind itself into dust and perish.
So he issues a command to the listener. You must cherish your visions. You must fiercely protect your ideals, the music that stirs in your heart, the beauty that forms in your mind.
Because out of those invisible seeds will grow all delightful, tangible future conditions.
And here we locate the mechanical promise of the text. It sounds like magic, but he presents it as physics. To desire is to obtain. To aspire is to achieve.
He completely rejects the cynical idea that a person's basest, lowest desires will receive gratification while their purest aspirations will be left to starve.
He says that is simply not how the law operates.
He uses a beautiful biological metaphor to illustrate latent potential. The mighty oak tree sleeps inside the tiny acorn. The magnificent bird waits inside the fragile egg.
And in the highest vision of a human soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are not fantasies. They are the literal seedlings of future realities.
To make this abstract concept absolutely concrete, we must recount the deeply powerful narrative Allen provides in this chapter.
The story of the youth.
Yes, We must trace this exact step-by-step progression to understand the mechanics of transformation.
Let us paint the picture exactly as Alan does. We begin with a youth who is severely hard-pressed by poverty and grueling physical labor.
He is confined for long, agonizing hours in an unhealthy, stifling workshop.
He is entirely unschooled, lacking in all the arts of refinement. His physical circumstances are as bleak and restrictive as one could imagine.
By all external metrics, he is trapped. Totally trapped.
Yet internally, an entirely different reality is gestating. While his hands are working in the grim reality of the shop, his mind is not there.
This youth dreams of better things. He thinks intensely of intelligence, of refinement, of grace and beauty.
He begins to mentally, architecturally build up an ideal condition of life. A vision of wider liberty, of profound capability, takes complete possession of him.
And this internal vision creates a massive psychological unrest. It creates a friction between his current reality and his ideal.
And that unrest urges him to action.
What is this specific action, though? He does not just sit and wish.
No, he uses every single fraction of his spare time and his incredibly meager means for the deliberate development of his latent powers and resources.
He doesn't complain about the workshop. He uses his mind to outgrow it. He studies, he disciplines himself, he refines his thought.
And the text reveals the mechanism. Very soon, his mind becomes so fundamentally altered, his internal frequency becomes so elevated that the physical workshop can literally no longer hold him.
It becomes a physical impossibility for him to remain there. The environment becomes so entirely out of harmony with his newly established mindset that it falls out of his life.
Like an outgrown garment.
Exactly, as naturally as a completely outgrown garment is cast aside. He passes out of that environment altogether because new opportunities organically grow and align to fit the vast new scope of his expanding powers.
And then Alan shifts the timeline forward. Years later, we see this exact same youth, now a fully grown man. We find him a master of certain immense forces of the mind that he wields with worldwide influence and almost unequaled power.
In his hands, he holds gigantic, terrifying responsibilities. He speaks, and the lives of thousands are changed. He acts, and industries shift.
He has become, as Alan masterfully describes, the fixed and luminous center around which innumerable destinies now revolve.
He has literally become the physical embodiment of a vision of his youth. He has become one with his ideal.
It is a stunning, undeniable illustration of the absolute law of cause and effect. The inner vision forced the outer reality to conform.
But Alan knows exactly how society will react to this man's success. And this brings us to his absolute annihilation of the concept of luck.
He unleashes a harsh, blistering criticism against what he calls the thoughtless, the ignorant, and the indolent. These are the onlookers.
The people who only ever look at the apparent end effects of things and who refuse to acknowledge the hidden grinding causes.
When they see a man grow immensely rich, they throw up their hands and exclaim, "How lucky he is!"
When they observe another becoming a highly skilled intellectual giant, they say how highly favored he is.
They are completely, willfully blind to the agonizing process. Alan points out that they do not see the years of trials, they do not see the massive, soul-crushing failures.
They do not see the agonizing struggles these successful individuals have endured just to gain a fraction of their experience.
They have absolute zero knowledge of the immense, bleeding sacrifices made, of the undaunted, relentless efforts put forth, of the blind faith exercised to overcome apparently insurmountable, terrifying obstacles.
They do not know the darkness. They do not know the heartaches, the sleepless nights, the moments of near total despair.
They only see the light, the joy, and the final victory, and they lazily dismiss the entirety of that human struggle with one word: luck.
They behold the pleasant destination and call it good fortune, entirely ignorant of the treacherous journey.
Alan establishes a law of physics to shatter this ignorance. In all human affairs, there are efforts and there are results, and the strength of the effort is the measure of the result. Chance is not.
The strength of the effort is the measure of the result. Beautiful.
Think of it like a theater analogy. Walking into a grand theater, you sit in a velvet seat, the heavy curtain rises, and you witness a flawless, breathtaking performance.
Right, the actors hit every mark.
Exactly. The dialogue is razor sharp, the emotion is transcendent, the audience stands, applauds, and calls it pure magic or natural talent.
They are entirely oblivious to the reality.
They didn't see the agonizing months in a freezing rehearsal room. They didn't see the forgotten lines, the brutal staging corrections, the screaming matches, the sweat, the tears, and the sheer brutal exhaustion that preceded opening night.
They only see the harvest. They never saw the tilling of the soil.
Which forces a direct confrontation with the listener. Right now, what vision are you secretly harboring in the deepest recesses of your mind?
Because Alan makes a terrifyingly precise, inescapable promise. You will receive exactly what you earn, not 1 ounce more and not 1 ounce less.
You will inevitably, gravitationally move toward what you secretly most love. You will become as small as your controlling desire, or you will become as great as your dominant aspiration.
The ideal you enthrone in your heart, the vision you worship in your quietest moments, this is the exact blueprint by which you will build your life, and this is exactly what you will become.
It is a formula of perfect, terrifying, inescapable justice.
And if a person can truly master that justice, if they can align their vision, their purpose, and their effort flawlessly, they ascend to the final stage of human evolution. Chapter 7.
This brings us to the absolute zenith of Alan's philosophy, serenity.
Yes, if purpose is the roaring engine and vision is the specific destination, then serenity is the ultimate transcendent state of existence during the journey.
Alan defines calmness of mind in a very specific way. It is crucial to understand that he does not define serenity as a default setting.
No, it is not a genetic trait that some lucky people are simply born with.
He calls it one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom.
A jewel must be mined, cut, and polished under immense pressure.
Exactly. He explains that true serenity is the explicit, hard-won result of long and patient effort and extreme self-control.
Its presence in a person is the ultimate, undeniable indicator of ripened experience. It physically proves that the individual possesses a profound, more than ordinary knowledge of the intricate, hidden laws and operations of thought.
He states that a person becomes calm in the exact mathematical measure that they understand themselves as a thought-evolved being.
A thought-evolved being.
Because to truly understand yourself in this way necessitates the understanding of everyone else as the result of their own thoughts.
As a person develops this right understanding, they begin to see the invisible internal relations of things. They see the gears turning.
They see the action of cause and effect in every human interaction. And because they finally see the mechanism behind the madness, they simply cease to fuss.
They cease to fume, they stop worrying, and they no longer grieve over the inevitable. They remain perfectly poised, steadfast, and serene.
The worldly power of this poise is incalculable. Alan discusses how the strong, calm person is universally loved and revered by humanity.
He uses incredibly evocative imagery, likening such a person to a shade-giving tree in a thirsty, blistering land, or a sheltering rock in a violent storm.
In a chaotic world, everyone is instinctively, gravitationally drawn to a tranquil heart and a sweet-tempered, flawlessly balanced life.
He brings it down from the spiritual heights to the most ruthless, practical level. He notes that mastering these internal tempests brings massive worldly success and influence.
Even for an ordinary, everyday trader, a business person will find their financial prosperity increase simply because people always inherently prefer to deal with someone whose demeanor is equitable, predictable, and calm.
It is a tangible, highly lucrative economic asset.
He contrasts this exquisite, powerful poise with the tragic, chaotic reality of the vast majority of humanity. He observes how millions of people sour their own lives, ruin their relationships, and destroy all that is sweet and beautiful with explosive, uncontrolled tempers.
They literally destroy their own character and create bad blood over trivialities.
He asserts that the great majority of people ruin their lives and mar their happiness entirely through a catastrophic lack of self-control. Humanity, he says, surges with uncontrolled passion, is tumultuous with ungoverned grief, and is blown violently about by anxiety and doubt.
Imagine standing in the exact center, the eye of a Category 5 hurricane.
Eye of the hurricane.
Yes. While the rest of humanity is caught in the ferocious, deafening winds of circumstance, blown wildly about by their uncontrolled passions, their petty jealousies, and their paralyzing anxieties, the wise person stands in the dead center, where the air is perfectly still.
The wise person, whose thoughts are rigorously controlled and purified, does not just survive the storm. They actually make the winds and the storms of the soul obey them.
But this leaves us with the ultimate practical question. How does the listener apply the final commanding instruction of this entire philosophy?
Right. Alan ends the book with 3 words: peace. Be still. How do we actually wake the sleeping master within the soul?
Alan provides the blueprint in his closing revelation. He addresses the tempest-tossed souls directly, wherever they may be listening.
He assures them that no matter how dark the storm, in the ocean of life, the isles of blessedness are smiling, and the sunny, peaceful shore of your ideal is actively awaiting your coming.
But the practical application is not passive surrender. It is a relentless iron grip on your own consciousness. he commands. Keep your hands firmly upon the helm of thought.
You do not wake the master by wishing. You wake the master by recognizing with absolute authority that the master is your own sovereign will over your own thoughts.
You assert, in the face of chaos, that self-control is actual, literal strength.
You declare that right thought is absolute mastery. You realize that calmness is the ultimate, unconquerable power.
You command your own heart to be still through the relentless, daily application of every single mechanism we have discussed in this series.
It is the ultimate reclamation of human agency.
It truly is.
And with that, we have journeyed through the entirety of James Allen's profound paradigm-shifting philosophy. We began in part 1 by discovering the shocking reality that your mind is a literal garden, and your thoughts are the physical seeds that dictate the exact circumstances of your reality, your physical health, and your environment.
Today, we learn the mechanics of the harvest. We discovered that without a central driving purpose, you are dangerously adrift, a weak prey to the assassins of fear and doubt.
We confronted the brutal truth of absolute individual responsibility, that every failure and every triumph is born entirely from within, and that enduring achievement demands the fierce, uncompromising sacrifice of our base, chaotic desires.
We unveil the invisible architecture of reality, seeing how the grand visions you secretly cherish are the absolute, infallible prophecies of your future condition, entirely independent of the cowardly illusion of luck.
And finally, we ascended to the ultimate realization, that serenity, the beautiful jewel of wisdom, is the supreme mastery of the thought-evolved being, a state capable of commanding the very storms of the soul to cease.
From the dark soil of the mental garden to the polished jewel of absolute serenity, you, and you alone, are the undisputed master of your destiny.
So, as we conclude this vast, demanding exploration, I leave you with this final, uncompromising thought. In a few moments, you'll resume your daily life. You will step back into the friction of the world, and the very next thought that enters your mind, the very next one, is a seed.
It is not neutral. It is highly active.
Based entirely on James Allen's absolute law of cause and effect, what harvest are you initiating right in this exact, fleeting second? Are you planting a weed of fear, or are you planting the mighty oak of purpose? The choice, the power, and the consequence are entirely yours.
The helm is in your hands.
Thank you for undertaking this intense, transformative journey of self-mastery with us. Remember to subscribe to Fact Horizon so you never miss an exploration into the profound truths that define our reality. And please step into the comments section and share your thoughts. Tell us about the visions and ideals you are building in the architecture of your mind. Until next time, guard your thoughts relentlessly, cultivate your mental garden with supreme care, and steer your course with absolute, fearless purpose.